Yo-Yo's tears began to swirl uncontrollably because the man in front of her was indeed that big villain, Daniel. Then she burst into tears, crying loudly while cursing him as a villain, a smelly man. He disappeared for 2,000 years after leaving, only to remember to come back and see her now. When the heart is free from women, drawing the sword feels divine. Even if I were to see my old lover Daniel again in 2,000 years, I would only heave a sigh. Suddenly Yo-Yo's little hand grabbed his sleeve. She looked at him pitifully and said, "Don't try to escape anymore unless you let me out, otherwise I won't let go." Yo-Yo couldn't help but cry again, saying, "It's been 2,600 years. Do you know how I've been living in these 2,600 years? Alone in this dark dungeon, with no one to talk to. Do you know what loneliness is? And I don't even have anything to eat." Daniel's big hand gently pressed down on her head. He spoke as gently as he did back then. "You know, I was a martial arts fool back then. After finding no opponents in Sanjo, I headed to the Divine Realm and climbed up the Ascension ranking by fighting all the way up." Yo-Yo was touched inside but couldn't help but ridicule him. "Did you fight for over 2,000 years in one go? And why did your appearance change?" "I died once. Although I left a loophole in Sanjo, there was a slight problem during the reshaping of my physical body. At least I survived," Daniel said, indifferent. As soon as she heard that the man she had liked for over 2,000 years was killed once, she started to feel soft-hearted again. She reached out to help him check, making Daniel extremely embarrassed. Then she started to go crazy. "Who exactly killed you and me? I will kill him." Daniel may be very powerful now, but there are only a few people in the world who can truly be his match. Daniel pinched her little nose and scolded her, saying that a little girl should not resort to violence so easily. After Daniel let go, Yo-Yo defiantly spoke out. "I am not a kid anymore. I am already grown up. I have been here for over 2,000 years. I'm not young in terms of age or anything else." Yo-Yo suddenly appeared very confident. When Daniel asked her if she wanted to go out, her eyes sparkled, nodding incessantly like a pecking chicken. She was so eager to go out that she was almost going crazy. Seeing the pitiful look on this girl, Daniel couldn't help but feel compassion. After all, he had kept a little doll locked up for over 2,000 years. However, Daniel made her agree to 3 conditions before she could go out. First, you are not allowed to transform. Second, you are not allowed to leave me more than 5 steps away. Yo-Yo thought it would be some very harsh conditions. It turns out to be so simple. After she quickly agreed, Daniel just opened the specially made formation door. As soon as it opened, Yo-Yo hung right around his neck. No matter what Daniel said, she just wouldn't come down. Anyway, Daniel also feels guilty in his heart, so we can only let her be. Yo-Yo then sat on Daniel's shoulders, excitedly shouting, "Charge! Let's go have a big meal," making Daniel afraid she might fall off. The scene shifts to Ella standing in front of the monument testing innate talent, and the onlookers all show looks of astonishment, because this red-haired little girl's innate talent has actually reached Saint class. Others only see 2 different colors emanating from the steel. But Remy knows, because this is the rumored twin Tao body with the additional ice and fire dual attributes, and the ability to cultivate yin and yang together. Didn't expect little Ella to be so awesome. The 3 elites of the outer sect were momentarily dumbfounded. Just at this moment, a voice came. "I've made the decision on her." The speaker was an old man standing in the void. This person is Elder Connor, the chief of the Celestial Mystic sect. I didn't expect Ella's exceptional physique to attract the chief elder. Do you believe it? Waiting for Ella to grow up. She is definitely a super strong and gorgeous beauty. Wanting to recruit her as a disciple, I am afraid that just being the chief elder of the Celestial Mystic sect may not be qualified enough. Just at this moment, 3 breaking sounds along with laughter came over. The newcomers are 2 men and a woman. Obviously, they also heard the news about disciples being snatched. The woman in the purple long robe ahead is Saintess Peak leader Bella. The middle-aged man, with a long sword on his back is Skirich Peak Leader Archer. And this chubby man in the green robe is Meteorfall Peak Leader Rider. The three of them are each vying for their respective peaks as the best destination. Even when facing the Chief Elder, they still act arrogantly. Bella said, "You are not even the peak leader, and you think you can compete with us for disciples here?" The two peak leaders behind her echoed, saying that even if one is powerful, they still don't have the qualifications to compete for disciples with the peak leaders of each peak. This is the rule of the Celestial Mystic Sect. It's better not to say it. Once the Chief Elder heard it, he exploded in anger. Pointing at them, he scolded furiously, "You group of ungrateful people! When you fought for the position of peak leader back then, each one of you told me how tiring it was to be a peak leader and advised me not to compete. So you were all just waiting for me here. It seems that this old man is a bit foolish. I was deceived for so many years before realizing it." Just as they were arguing, another old voice suddenly intervened. "Stop fighting! Stop! Who exactly is this person who appeared in the third wave? Are they even more powerful than these few?" When the peak leaders looked up, they revealed a hint of fear in their expressions. This person is also standing in a position higher than these few. This clearly shows that their identity and status are far higher than these few elders. But a new disciple standing below spoke a great truth. "Who is this person? Such arrogance!" Someone nearby immediately warned him to speak carefully, because the arrogant old man speaking is the supreme elder of their celestial mystic sect. The chief elder burst into laughter when he saw that the visitor was the supreme elder. Because of the arrival of this person, they no longer need to compete. They reluctantly yield as they finally have a disciple with such high qualifications. They feel unwilling in their hearts, but dare not resist. The old man before them is none other than the Celestial Mystic Sect's Supreme Elder Arthur. He just finished closed-door cultivation today and encountered such a good seedling, who is a Saint class innate talent. I'm sure that taking this person as a disciple will surely result in surpassing the master. However, the old man's plans may face uncertainty once he meets Daniel. Seeing that there is no hope of competing for the four elders with Ella, reluctantly congratulating Arthur on acquiring a new disciple. Then 5 people descended from the sky and arrived on the ground. Remy took a look and turned out to be the Supreme Elder, so they quickly paid their respects. They saw that Ella had actually attracted the Supreme Elder out. The head of the 3 elites of the outer sect, Jose, is itching with jealousy. If it weren't for Ella's appearance, the focus of the assessment should have been on them instead. This has made Jose harbor resentment in his heart. He just needs to seize the opportunity. This wicked wolf is determined to bite hard. Arthur walked up to Ella and directly stated that she was his master now, preparing to caress his cute disciple. However, what Ella said next made his hand pause in midair. She said, "But Big Brother said he would be my master. Besides him, no one else in the Celestial Mystic Sect is worthy of being my master." I didn't expect that the dignified Supreme Elder would actually be publicly slapped in the face by a little girl. Then wait for Ella's big brother. He's about to come and meet with you, the so-called Supreme Elder. What kind of spark would occur when these 2 little girls collide? When Ella heard her big brother speaking even more arrogantly than he did, Arthur immediately turned to Remy and asked, "Who is the big brother you mentioned?" Remy was momentarily speechless, because he really didn't know how to respond, which conveniently gave the villain Jose an opportunity. Jose, like a simp, proactively reported Daniel's situation to Arthur. Arthur looked at him disdainfully. Jose lowered his posture and continued, "That person, to be precise, is an extremely arrogant beggar. He has no trace of cultivation achievement in his body. During the formation assessment, he always found various excuses to dodge it." Arthur listened with a frown. He informed her about Daniel serving Daniel, fueling Arthur's even more blatant suspicion that Daniel is having an affair with the Saintess. Isn't this just a typical case of sour grapes? He heard that the prestigious Celestial Mystic Sect Saintess is being treated like a servant. Arthur couldn't help it anymore. He asked loudly, "Remy, is what this person is saying true?" Are you really serving a beggar? At this point, Remy had no choice but to tell the truth. While admitting it, Remy still wanted to explain that it wasn't at all as the guy said. But Arthur didn't give Remy a chance to explain. With a powerful aura instantly emanating, everyone present was almost breathless from the oppression. But Arthur still had to consider his image. After reigning in his power a bit, he once again rebuked Remy as someone with no cultivation achievement who dared to boast within the celestial mystic sect. I don't know what connection you have with that person. But what you've done has brought shame to the entire celestial mystic sect. Remy knows he is in the wrong, and no longer tries to defend himself. All he can do is hope for his swift return to resolve this deadlock. Later, Arthur heartlessly said that this child cannot be kept, actually wanting to kill Daniel? Indeed, this person is not a good character. Finally, Daniel appeared. Who can't stay? Daniel, with Yo-Yo on his back, has already walked over. Tell me, what did you say about someone not being able to stay? Yo-Yo, hanging on Daniel's back, keeps shouting, Eat meat, eat meat. Can you guys understand the meaning of Yo-Yo little Demoness? At first sight, Daniel finally appeared, and Remy and Ella both called out at the same time. On the other hand, the bystander Jose wanted to sit back and watch the show. To stir things up further, he immediately told Arthur about that flamboyant figure. Arthur glanced at Daniel thoughtfully. He did not rush to take action. Ella happily ran towards Daniel. However, when Yo-Yo saw a little girl who looked like her, her expression turned a little grim. What's even more surprising to her is that the red-haired girl is actually a twin Tao body. She turned her head and asked if she was a new disciple of Daniel. Upon hearing Daniel's response, she clearly showed jealousy and hostility. He did not expect her to playfully pat his butt and say, Impressive! You can even find such good seedlings! When Ella noticed Yo-Yo, she couldn't help but say, So cute! Yo-Yo was taken aback. It was the first time she had ever been called cute by a child. The 1,000-year-old little Demoness was actually called cute by a little brat? Of course, this is not the end. Ella touched Yo-Yo's head and said, What a cute little sister you are! Are you also a disciple of Big Brother? Then you will be my junior sister from now on. I never expected that the esteemed demonic cult saintess would be seen as a little sister, even a junior sister, by such a young girl. Just because she is shorter? Yo-Yo's arrogant and domineering personality is surely intolerable. She immediately went berserk. You are the little sister? Where am I younger? I'm over 2,000 years old this year. She paused as Daniel coughed twice behind her. Don't tell me you forgot the 3 chapters of our covenant? Daniel's voice suddenly sounded. Yo-Yo was so scared that she even misspoke repeatedly. Even Remy beside was flustered. Aren't you a little sister after all? She looks much younger than she actually is. It seems she and you are old acquaintances. Yo-Yo feels like it's not enough. Standing with a height that is a head shorter than Ella, she exclaimed indignantly, Where am I small? I am clearly big, okay? Yo-Yo seems to be trying hard to prove that she is taller than Ella. But reality is cruel. She has to stand on her tiptoes just to touch Ella's hair. Also, she insisted, You should call me Master's wife. This left Ella feeling utterly confused. Remy, on the side, can no longer bear to listen. She covered her mouth and looked at Daniel fearfully, saying, You? Can you even lay a hand on such a young child like this? Daniel, who had endured enough, threw a punch at Yo-Yo's head with a devastating blow. Yo-Yo immediately went into acting mode, instantly switching to a pitiful girl, saying, Am I not your woman? You've done everything while keeping me locked up for so long. Do you want to abandon me? Even Daniel was left speechless by her words, unable to find a reason to argue back for a moment. On the other side, Jose watched the scene like a movie. He didn't expect that this smelly beggar actually had other women, and even the Supreme Elder suddenly stood still and didn't dare to move. This development completely deviated from the storyline he had imagined. Seeing this, he once again fabricated a story out of thin air, Supreme Elder doesn't even spare such a young child. This person must be a lecher. And this kind of lecher actually joined the Celestial Mystic Sect. This is simply a great humiliation for our Celestial Mystic Sect. But when Arthur didn't pay any attention to this scumbag, he appeared and was so scared when he saw Yo-Yo that his soul almost left his body. Does this Supreme Elder have some undisclosed past with the little Demoness? Following Arthur's thoughts back to the moment when he was young. That year was when Yo-Yo transformed into a young girl. She used charm art to control the entire Celestial Mystic Sect. And young Arthur, for a while, couldn't resist the temptation. He turned out to be Yo-Yo's #1 fan, shouting, "Long live Yo-Yo!" the loudest during that period. Although little Demoness was later suppressed by Ancestor, this experience and the unfathomable power of Demoness left Arthur with an extremely terrifying shadow. Now that she has been released, if she reveals the embarrassing incident, his image as a Supreme Elder will collapse. Consequently, he is preparing to quietly escape from the scene. At this moment, someone grabbed his sleeve. It was Jose who grabbed Arthur's sleeve. He had already noticed that the Supreme Elder was acting suspiciously, and he was hoping that Arthur would help him vent his anger. Clearly, his hope was in vain. Arthur pretended to be in a hurry to leave. On the other hand, he was already scared out of his wits. Just as they were pulling each other, the voice of little Demoness came over. "I didn't expect you to be here too. Now even Supreme Elder won't be able to escape if he wanted to." Yo-Yo, with a stern and imposing manner, walked over with his hands behind his back. Unexpectedly, he shouted at Arthur, "Artie, do you still remember me?" The already jittery Arthur was so scared that he blurted out, "Oh my God!" without caring about his image. Little Demoness unexpectedly hung on Daniel's neck and called him, "Husband! What on earth is going on?" Arthur was so scared when Yo-Yo called him, Artie, that he was beside himself. He finally managed to pretend to be calm. I never thought little Demoness would once again confidently point at Arthur and say, "You must be Artie." This statement immediately challenged the values of the several elders and saintesses present. They couldn't believe that the Supreme Elder of the esteemed Celestial Mystic Sect was actually being called Artie by a little girl in front of them. It was truly eye-opening. Being called by the name Arthur, his childhood name, twice in a row by the little Demoness made him break out in a cold sweat. Could it be that this Demoness had truly recognized him? It has been over 2,000 years. She shouldn't have been able to recognize him. At this point, Arthur still clung to a sense of luck. He simply turned around and left quickly, opting for a strategy of denying everything. This actually left little Demoness in a daze. How could it be possible? How could she not recognize her #1 fan from back in the day? Then, Yo-Yo asked Saintess Remy, "Isn't this old man Arthur?" Remy, although a bit confused, truthfully answered Supreme Elder that his name is indeed Arthur. After listening to Remy's words, Yo-Yo said cunningly with a sly look on her face, "I said I wouldn't misidentify a person. My sense of smell is still very sharp. I remember the auras of my previous underlings. This is over now. Even if Arthur disguises himself, the title of Artie may be confirmed." Little Demoness took on the appearance of a little adult and, like an elder, said to Arthur, "Artie! That's great! You've even risen to the position of Supreme Elder in the Celestial Mystic Sect. I distinctly remember that you used to be just an outer disciple in the Celestial Mystic Sect, with no say in anything. Not only that, you were bullied every day." Listening to little Demoness continuously expose his past, Arthur's face was solemn, and he dared not speak a word. And it's not over yet, as Yo-Yo's words once again challenged Remy's values. "That time, I was just looking at you with pity. I gave those who bullied you a good lesson. How come now that you've become the Supreme Elder, you're unwilling to acknowledge me, your older sister?" No wonder back then, when little Demoness used the charm art to control the entire Celestial Mystic Sect, Arthur was the most joyful one. So that's how it is. These unforgettable past events made Arthur cover his old face involuntarily, sighing about his millennium-old wisdom being ruined in an instant. However, Remy seemed to hear sensational news. Unexpectedly, the highly respected Supreme Elder of the Celestial Mystic Sect was once bullied. Such a juicy piece of news is irresistible to onlookers. Just got robbed of his disciple by Arthur, Archer and Bella couldn't stop marveling. One of them chuckled and said, "This is truly amazing," while the other smirked. "I never thought this old man had such an experience." The two of them couldn't help but gloat at Arthur's misfortune. Ryder was even more excited, hurriedly jotting down this interesting story with great enthusiasm. At this point, Arthur was so emotional that even 100 mouths couldn't explain clearly. He burst into tears and complained to Yo-Yo, wiping his tears. "Please spare me some dignity. I thought I was lucky to meet a good candidate to inherit my mantle right after leaving the customs. I might as well have not left the customs at all." The grandfather, Arthur, who was revered as a deity by Remy, actually admitted it himself, which shocked her once again. Is this still the Supreme Elder she remembers from her memories? Although the impact Arthur has had on her is indeed significant, when she thinks about the astonishing words from the little Demoness Remy, she becomes even more curious about who this girl really is. In her confusion, she immediately asks Daniel who this girl really is. How could she possibly know the Supreme Elder? Daniel did not expect her to be so careful. It seems she has noticed something unusual about the little Demoness. Of course, how could Daniel possibly tell the truth? He casually replied that she is called Yo-Yo, and she is one of my best friends, just loves to cause trouble. Little Demoness didn't take kindly to this statement. What does causing trouble mean? It's obviously this stinky man who unfairly puts her in the doghouse for no reason. Then she fiercely rushed towards this stinky man she mentioned, seeing her messing around with you, little Demoness. Remy didn't expect that all of this is actually true. At this moment, Artie suddenly pointed at Daniel and asked who Yo-Yo is. In fact, he was already extremely shocked. This notorious little Demoness had been imprisoned for over 2,000 years. How could this person have set her free? Are there undisclosed secrets or conspiracies at their celestial mystic sect? The little Demoness was also surprised that Artie didn't recognize their sect's founding ancestor. But she looked at Artie's expression. Should I know him? Little Demoness also awkwardly touched her small head and said, "That's true. After all, at that time, you were just an outer weakling and didn't have the qualifications to meet some big shots. It's normal not to know them." Just as little Demoness was preparing to introduce him. This is the ancestor who punched his way into the ascension ranking of the Celestial Mystic Sect, with a reputation spreading throughout the heavens and earth. Daniel raised his eyebrows and promptly stopped little Demoness just as she was about to speak. It seems that Daniel does not want little Demoness to reveal his identity. Little Demoness immediately had a brilliant idea. Then she jumped on Daniel and hung on his neck, shouting, "Not bad. He is my husband." Little Demoness really spoke boldly without blinking an eye. This statement instantly petrified everyone present. When little Demoness intentionally shouted out that Daniel was her husband, she became uncontrollable. Her small hand poking Daniel's face continued to say, "Him. He was really ruthless. He heartlessly abandoned me for so long back then. I almost turned into the waiting wife monument." And Daniel, in order to not reveal his identity, could only let Yo-Yo make up stories. However, little Demoness is afraid that Remy will steal her man, so she advised Remy like an elder. "Young girl, listen to me. Being his maid is fine, but don't put your heart on him. He is very ruthless." Remy was left speechless and didn't know how to respond. If little Demoness continues to act recklessly, she might cause some misunderstandings. Daniel suddenly felt that letting her out was a mistake, scaring little Demoness into quickly shutting up, trying hard to act innocent. Artie saw the elder sister from before. She was actually subdued by a man now. He was also puzzled but dared not inquire further. Little Demoness smartly redirected the conversation by having Artie take them out for a meal. Daniel was now feeling a bit regretful about letting her out. When Jose saw Daniel and the others follow the Supreme Elder into the distance, he felt so resentful. He never expected that a small beggar could not only win over the saintess in a short period of time, but also get involved with a prominent figure. His limelight was actually stolen by a beggar. Jose's anger rose from the bottom of his heart, and evil thoughts began to take root at the edge of his courage. A despicable conspiracy was brewing and fermenting in his mind. Just a few hours later, rumors about Saintess Remy and Daniel can be heard in many places. And who could be the instigator besides Jose? At this time, he has set his sights on a disciple of Cloud Miss Peak. He leaned in and whispered to him that the Saintess had been threatened by a beggar and was forced to become a maid. She is forced to do various things every day. The disciple of Cloud Miss Peak thinks highly of the Saintess, considering her their dream girl. He angrily drew his sword and didn't know where to run, becoming the 100th disciple to spread rumors. Jose believes it won't be long. This news that he thinks is sensational. It will spread throughout the entire celestial mystic sect, and that will be his time to steal the limelight again. It seems that this Jose isn't very capable, but he does have plenty of dirty tricks. There are always villains where there are good people. While Jose was fantasizing and laughing out loud, little did he know that a figure had long been observing everything in the void. As for who this person is, I actually don't know either. We can only wait for the follow-up story. The scene changes. Isn't this the disciple of Cloud Miss Peak, who just entered and fell flat on his face? It turns out he was in a hurry to deliver a message to his master, Brooks. This Brooks is indeed the son of the leader of Cloud Miss Peak, looking every bit like a composed and unruffled gentleman. However, when the underling reported to the Saintess, it became a haughty little beggar maid. His hand, which was just about to pick up the tea, stiffened. He suddenly had a burst of spiritual power, smashing the teacup. The oppressed underling let out another cry for mercy. It looks like another good show is about to play out, but Daniel, who is having lunch in the cafeteria, has no idea that trouble is brewing again. The two girls are feasting at the moment. They are probably really hungry. Suddenly, Ella turned around and asked Daniel, "Big brother, aren't you going to eat?" Daniel lightly touched Ella's head and smiled, saying that he wasn't hungry. Seeing this, Remy envied how much favor Ella received. Little Demoness was full of jealousy. She felt that the chicken legs in her mouth now tasted not as delicious. Then she waved her little hand, used a spell to switch positions with Ella, and said, "Ella, switch places with Master's wife." Then she sat angrily in Ella's position. The next second, she grabbed Daniel's hand and pressed it against her own little head. She showed a satisfied smile. This little Demoness is simply a jealous pot. This is not the end yet. Then she pouted and said to Daniel in a coquettish manner, "I'm hungry." Is little Demoness Yo-Yo going through puberty? It seems like she still has a chicken bone in her mouth. Yo-Yo is jealous of Ella and insisted on having Daniel feed her. Look at the shy appearance of little Demoness with her mouth wide open, but Daniel is looking at her with disdain. Even the cup of water he was about to drink from is frozen in his hand. He really couldn't bear to watch anymore. Daniel then said, "Do you still want me to feed you?" After saying that, he roughly stuffed a chicken leg into little Demoness' mouth and said, "Eat it yourself. Do you think little Demoness will get angry?" However, little Demoness grabbed Daniel's wrist and gave it a strong push forward. The entire chicken leg, along with Daniel's hand, was swallowed into her mouth. This sudden move caught Daniel off guard, and he did not expect little Demoness to be so bold. This is simply disgusting. As soon as Daniel pulled his hand out, it was covered with Yo-Yo's saliva. Just eat your food. Don't be like this. Daniel suddenly felt like his stomach was churning. She's becoming more and more out of control now. But looking at Yo-Yo's appearance, she, however, is in a very enjoyable and shy state, saying that what you feed is delicious. This little Demoness is simply Daniel's nemesis. But Daniel just can't do anything about her. Artie, sitting quietly on the side, did not expect it at all. The Demoness is actually serious. He thought she was just joking and playing around, but it seems that she really is different towards this little beggar. Fortunately, Remy promptly took out a handkerchief and handed it over, which shocked Artie even more. He first subdued his own disciple, and then made the formidable Demoness obedient. How could this person be just an insignificant character? The scene quickly changed. Two disciples from Cloud Mist Peak seemed to be carrying Brooks on a stretcher made of a door panel as they arrived at the canteen. Coincidentally, he happened to see his dream girl in his heart wiping the hands of a beggar. He was suddenly burning with anger, and drew his sword with a swish. He unleashed a powerful sword chi and slashed towards canteen. I have to say Brooks has really good eyesight. He can see from such a distance. Could it be that he has installed a bionic eye? Just as sword chi is about to hit canteen. Inside the house, little Demoness and Daniel both sensed the incoming aura from outside. Daniel's eyes narrowed as he sensed that it was sword chi. He then drew out a chicken leg that he had just stuffed into little Demoness' mouth, which she had not finished eating. Then he flicked his fingers, and the chicken leg flew out. When the chicken leg was about to collide with the sword chi, I didn't expect that this chicken leg actually cut the sword chi in half from the middle. It flew past Brooks' noggin, but that's not all. When Brooks turned around in shock to look back, the forest behind was actually smashed into pieces by a chicken leg. Is this still a chicken leg? Can a single chicken leg cause such devastation? But apparently Brooks' mind wasn't working well. He thought it was a hidden weapon. Yes, it's a chicken leg hidden weapon. He then jumped off the plank. He began with a firm opening statement, truly a despicable and malicious person. He even had hidden weapons on him. Don't worry, I will take care of this despicable person right away and restore your freedom.